All right, so we're talking about Math 005, our lesson 4, part 1. We're starting to cover section 2.4 that has to do with formulas. And hopefully this will not be a very challenging process. I want to make sure that we're understanding it though. Formulas are basically, well, they're ideas that you can take and you can plug numbers in and you'll get a certain value or a certain piece of information back out. And in this particular case, we're looking at interest. We have an interest amount, right? We have an interest rate. We have the amount that's deposited, which is called a principal. And then we have how long it's left to accrue interest, which is the time. And the formula for that is I equals P times R times T. And if we're given some information, like our interest rate is 4%, and we're told the principal is $5,000 that's deposited, and we let it sit for 2 years, we can figure out exactly how much that's going to be. All right? So as we go, I'm literally going to just plug in each of those pieces of information. My P is the 5,000. My rate is the 4% or 0.04. And my years, my time is 2. All right? At this point, we can go ahead and calculate. It's literally, at this point, just arithmetic. So I'm going to have 200, my 4, well, it's going to be 1, 2, right? So I'm going to have 20 there we go. And then I'm going to multiply that by 2. So I've got my 4 and my 5 got me the 20, and then I have 1, 2, 3 more 3 more zeros. So that's how I got the 4 zeros there. And then I have 2 decimal places that I have to account for. So there's my 2 decimal places. All right, so now I have 200 times 2. So my interest is going to be 400. All right, that's not very difficult to do. It's really a matter of matching up what piece of information they're giving us with which piece of the formula we have. All right, so if I were to say I want to know the perimeter, or I have a perimeter, and I know the length, and I want to figure out what the width is, how would I go about doing that? I can find out everything that I need to know by setting up my formula, and then I can just plug numbers in, quite literally. All right, so if I have perimeter, most folks are aware that that's 2 times my length plus 2 times my width. So if I want to know just the width, we want W. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling this apart until I get W all by itself. And then if I have information, I can plug it in and figure out what each of those values are. Okay, so here I'm going to rewrite this to be P, and I'm going to take my 2 and factor that on out. So I'm going to have 2 times the quantity of L plus W. Okay, so now I'm going to take my P and I'm going to divide that by, I can go ahead and divide that by 2. Actually, let me go ahead, I'm going to do that a little different. Let me go ahead and do that a little differently. I'm going to go ahead and do that a little differently. So I'm going to say P minus 2L. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what I was about to do, but this may seem a little, I think this seems a little easier. So I'm going to subtract that 2L on both sides. That's going to make it be P minus 2L equals 2 times W. And now I'm going to go ahead and divide both of those by 2. All right. So I can go ahead and say my W, right, my 2's cancel out here. I'm going to have P minus 2L all over 2 equals W. And I can cancel some things out here if I want to. I could go ahead and break this apart to be P over 2 minus 2L over 2 equals W. And then this will cancel to just an L. All right, so there's a couple of ways you can write it. And that's all. I mean, it's totally allowed however you want to approach it. That's fine. That would lead us to 1/2 P or P over 2 minus L equals W. So let's say we know our perimeter is 32. They tell us, okay? And they would have to tell us this information, right? We can't just like arbitrarily pull it out of the air. Certainly not in this case. We're being given some information. We're told our perimeter is 32 and our length is going to be a 10, right? And they're in the same units, whether it's inches, meters, feet, millimeters, whatever, okay? This is what our perimeter is. We've got these units. They're the same units. So now I'm going to take this formula and I'm literally just going to plug in my values. So I'm going to have a 32 over 2 minus 10, and that's going to give me my width. All right, I can then go, I'm going to say my 32 divided by 2, that's going to get me a 16, minus 10 is going to leave me with W, which means my W is going to be a 6. All right, and that's quite literally as hard as it gets.